Hello. Ooh, I'm back with spooky lighting. For another review. A review of The Last Voyage of Demeter, which I saw with my friends this past weekend. It's a horror movie based on the part of the Dracula novel where Dracula is on a boat and he's being transported from like Transylvania to London or England. I guess it doesn't specify London, but and he basically like kills all the people in the boat. And I watched it because a friend wanted to go see it, and I was like, yeah, it sounds interesting. Boat Dracula. Dracula hunting down people on a boat is a fun concept, and it certainly delivered on that concept. As to why I'm reviewing this instead of any other more popular movies that have come out this summer, this is not related to the review, but I guess I figure now's the time to say, if you want more frequent thoughts on, if you want more frequently to hear my opinions on movies, I am on Letterboxd, the funny film review app. I feel like it probably seems from this channel like all I watch is superhero movies and like Mario movie, like kid. If anything, I watch more movies. I'm in more of a movie watching phase than I've ever been in my life before. But you wouldn't be able to tell from the amount of reviews that I upload. Because I think a lot of times what I really want out of reviewing a movie is like just a quick like, I just finished watching this movie. Here's my opinions. I just want to quickly share my opinions. And I do that on Letterboxd. I do it by talking to my friends. And then the YouTube video, and then a week or two later, I'm like, yeah, I guess I should record a review on this movie. Like, I saw Barbie. I didn't see Oppenheimer. I only saw Barbie. Originally, I was thinking of waiting to see Oppenheimer, doing a double review. Then I never saw it. Then I don't know. I realized I'm like, how much does my white man opinion on Barbie matter? Like a month after the movie came out, it doesn't really. Like, why even make a review? I mean, I thought it was a good movie. I gave it a 4 stars out of 5 on Letterboxd. But I'm like, if you want the immediate, I came out of the movie, here's my take, like, and you want to see just how many movies I actually watch, because I don't record Fear Podcast as frequently as I used to. Working on that, working on scheduling that. I don't record movie reviews as much as I used to. But my Letterboxd, I watch a lot of movies. Now I'm much more inclined to just throw on a random movie now than I ever have been before. When I started doing Fear Podcast, it was really kind of Kirk getting me to watch movies sometimes. Now I just watch them on my own. None of that is related to this movie, but I didn't want to make an update video, so here we go. It's in this video. Enjoy the first 4 minutes of The Last Voyage of Demeter review being dedicated to me talking about why I don't record movie reviews anymore. Last Voyage of Demeter. Boat Dracula. That was my original Letterboxd review. I changed it. To, this is like, the acting was surprisingly good for a movie where Dracula kills a bunch of boat people, because that's I wasn't sure what to expect, how like schlocky, how serious it was going to be, but it's really not. It's a kind of alien style, like slow burn killer something's on the boat that's killing these people and they have to figure out what it is kind of movie. Dracula's only really name dropped once before like the third act. And this is like a purely monsterified Dracula. Like he's just like this sort of Nosferatu-ish, like feral bat creature, but he's still sentient, and you can tell they do some cool stuff with like the characters knock on the ship to like call to each other, and Dracula will knock back at them sometimes, try to lure them into corners and trap them and kill them. It's really cool. It's a really cool movie. I was surprised by how good. I mentioned it in my Letterboxd review. I was surprised how good the acting was, specifically. Like, which kind of solved the problem of, okay, so you've established at the beginning of the movie that this is based on a chapter from the novel Dracula, and that the premise of that chapter is it's a captain's log of Dracula slowly killing his entire crew, including him, and when the boat arrives in England, there's nobody left alive. How do you make that interesting when we kind of already know what the plot is going to be? And the answer is have really interesting characters on the boat with great actors portraying them. The captain, all of the main characters, the main group, and even just saying main, like who's a main one is kind of a spoiler, because it's like, oh, now I know this one's going to survive longer than the others, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. If you're that spoiler averse and you know Dracula on a killing people slow alien style on a boat sounds like cool to you, then yeah, go see it. But I'm gonna talk about the characters a little bit. There's the captain, obviously. He just had a really cool voice more than anything. Like, that actor had a cool voice. And then there's David Dastmalchian as like the captain's right-hand man, and he's very skeptical of the Dracula stuff. He's very skeptical of the character who is sort of the main character here, because Dracula is not really a character per se in this so much as he is like a force of nature. The main character is this educated black doctor who, keep in mind, this takes place in like the late 1800s, so he's very like he doesn't really have anywhere. He's kind of this mysterious figure of like, oh, so you've got this education, but you don't have anything to do with it. So he gets aboard the ship essentially to get back to England from where he is. And his story is super interesting. I'm sure a lot of the info about him, he's very much, a lot of these characters are very much the movie's invention, because this is based on a single chapter from a novel that I'm sure, I haven't read the novel, but I doubt it was that detailed about who these characters were. But they really like took them and fleshed all the major ones out in really interesting way. Like David Dastmalchian's character is I've always liked, he's good in every movie he's in, but this is the most I've ever seen him get to do in a movie. And he's great. He knocks it out of the park. There's also a girl who was basically smuggled on board the ship with Dracula, because Dracula comes in this crate, and they don't know that there's a Dracula in there, but she was put in the crate with him for him to like feed on, I guess. That part's kind of vague, but like she is another cool, that I really liked the actress who played her. She had this great like she had this great like far away look in her eyes, this like resolute look of like, I've accepted that this Dracula world, that like Dracula's hellscape is the reality that I live in, and she like stays level-headed in the face of it all until her, the very end. And there's no like bad, even the kid character, like the captain has a little boy as his son Toby, and that was like a kid actor that could have been annoying, but he's good. He did a good job. Everybody did a good. All the acting was like really good, and it's not that like horror movies or movies like this don't usually have good acting, but that's not usually the thing that I come out of a movie like that and I'm like, yes, the acting was really, really good. But for this one, that was one of the things that stood out to me the most, was the acting was really good. Good enough to make up for the somewhat slow pacing. The movie definitely takes a bit to get going. It's about 2 hours long, and a common criticism I've seen of it is that it could have been shorter, and I do agree that it could have been shorter, but the length did not bother me. The length didn't really ever bother me, but it also never, like, I felt the length, but I wasn't bothered by it. And, I'm kind of picky when it comes to a movie too long, so that's good praise for me. The only thing there was really only one or few things I wasn't huge on. There's one earlier on in the movie before Dracula's killed anyone. There's a kind of cheap, like, one of the crew members sees Dracula through his telescope, but he does so in a way that is very, like, cheap jump scary. And it's like, I feel like they could have done that better because nothing else in the movie is really like that. And I guess my one other complaint would be the ending is a little. I think it's interesting. The ending is, I'll say, not quite what you'd expect, uh, given the setup and the premise. And I think it definitely, I think it diverts from the book a little bit. But and I thought that was good. Like that diversion was not. But then there's another scene. There's basically kind of, it's not a post-credit scene, but it feels like a post-credit scene after that conclusion that was not bad, but felt like, I'm like, we didn't need to see this. It could have ended a little earlier, or but that was just my opinion. I actually liked what they set up for a sequel decently, because obviously if there's a post-credit scene, it's going to set up for a sequel. And unlike most, like I've heard that this movie's not doing that well in the box office because Barbie Oppenheimer craze is still dominating. But I hope it gets a sequel because I actually would like to see more. I actually would like to follow this Dracula, see his human form, see the whole novel, or at least the rest of the novel past that point. I don't know where that chapter lies in the book, but I would like to see more of this I would like to see this director and team make more of these, like, Dracula monster movies that are not really, that are like that, because I feel like it took itself seriously in a way that is sort of refreshing in the horror space right now. I feel like a lot of horror, I'm not that big of a horror guy, but I feel like a lot of horror, popular horror of the last, like, decade or so is kind of like campy. And sometimes that's fun, but sometimes I feel like that's an excuse to justify bad movie making, or not even bad, but cheap movie making. This movie did not look cheap. This movie looked, in fact, rather expensive. It didn't have a bunch of CGI or, like, expensive visual effects, but, like, the set design of the ship and the shot composition, it looked like a lot of craft was put into it. And I hope that the money fueled into that craft is made back. And I hope they can make more of these because I really enjoyed it. And yeah, that's really about all that I have to say about the last voyage of the Demeter. Yeah, that's my review. I'll see you next time I actually decide to make a review of something that I have watched. Arrivederci.